So as you can tell behind us, our backsplash tile has not been installed. The granite counter folks came in a few weeks back, put in the counters, put in the sink. We've had a lot going on. We've had family reunions, we've been traveling a lot, we had a birthday party, several birthday parties this summer, so we just haven't gotten around to putting the backsplash up. That's the project that we're going to do today, is getting the backsplash put up. You'll see that there's a lot of mastic residual from the previous tiles put up, and I have scoured the internet trying to figure out the best way to either A, remove this mastic, or B, mastic over the top of old mastic. What do I put down? Is there some sort of primer? Do I put down a thin set? Something to go over the top of this mastic. And from everything that I've found and everyone that I've talked to, either A, the mastic would need to be entirely scraped off, or sanded down flat, which is going to make a huge mess in here. Didn't really want to do that now that everything is in here, and we have cleaned this kitchen about 1 million times since construction started, so if I can not have an inch of dust on everything in the house again, I'd really like to not do that. So after talking with a few folks, the best method they said was going to put up the thinnest backer board available. So I went to Home Depot, got some masonry backer board, so it's like a composite concrete backer board in 1/4 inch thick, and we're just going to put that up with some dry rock anchors, and hopefully just having a nice, fresh, flat, smooth surface to start from will prevent any tiles from popping off or sagging, falling, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and get the backer board cut and installed, and then we're going to start putting up some tile. All right, so we've got all the backer board cut out and put up on the wall. Cutting around the outlets, obviously a little bit of a challenge. That was probably what took the longest amount of time, was cutting around all the little details. So now that we've got a dry, flat, level surface to put this on, we're going to go ahead and get started mounting up our tile. I think the hot ticket is probably to start in this corner and work our way out, because if we finish a little long behind the refrigerator, that's okay. And if we finish, and I've already gone ahead and measured this out, we're going to finish over here and only need just a handful of little trim pieces to fit in our rectangular mosaic tile. So I think it's going to look really good having almost a full sheet at this end, and then behind the fridge, like I said, we can finish as long as we want. So we're going to go ahead and get started. so today was the first day of school, which means last night, kids to bed early, meet the teacher, all that good stuff. So we didn't have the opportunity to come in after 24 hours and do our grout work. So the mastic and tile has had 24 additional hours, a total of 48 hours, to cure on the wall. So I think right now is going to be a great time to mix up some grout and get this spread out on those tiles. A lot of people really hate the grout process. They say it just makes a huge mess and they get tired of grouting and wiping and grouting and wiping. If you find that during the grouting process you're just making a huge mess, you're having to wipe up way too much grout, chances are you've got too much grout on your float or too much grout in the grout lines. So what you really want to do is take that grout float and kind of scrape off all of the grout, and what's left behind is just what you see in the grout lines. So we're going to get some grout mixed up tonight, get this process started. I want to do the area behind the stove first. That way we can put the stove back in place and get dinner started. And then we'll finish the rest of this stuff up. We can scrape off any mastic that we've left behind, and we're not going to grout right along the edges where the tile meets the countertop or where the tile meets the wall or the cabinet, because we're going to run a bead of waterproof silicone-based caulk in that area to keep water from getting down behind there. So since the tiles that we put up on the backsplash were a glass mosaic tile, we're going to be using an unsanded grout. So this bag of unsanded grout will grout up to 100 square feet of the tile that we put on, and since we only put up 32 square feet of that tile, we only need to use roughly a third of this bag. So this 10-pound bag of grout calls for 48 to 54 fluid ounces of water. So if we're only going to be using a third of this bag, we probably need to cut our water in a third. And if, by doing some simple math, my calculations are correct, I need roughly 17 ounces of water to mix with 3 pounds of grout. This bottle of water is 16.9 fluid ounces, so I'm going to use an entire bottle of water to about 3 pounds of grout. We want to mix that to a consistency of peanut butter cake batter. It's going to be a real thick cake batter. It's going to help allow that grout to go on really smooth and not fall off. It won't be a big sloppy mess, and it's going to set up nice and firm. So I have a mixing drill here that I'm going to put a mixer on. But before I did that, I know that this is probably not the right tool for the job, but since it's a brand new drill, I wanted to see what kind of power it had. This is DeWalt's Max 20-volt Max line, and this is their hammer drill, hammer drill combo. Comes with a 5 amp hour 20-volt battery. So I want to see what kind of power this thing's got mixing up this grout. It's probably going to get too thick. I don't want to strain this motor too much, but it's got a variable selector speeds 1, 2, and 3, and then of course it's got the variable speed trigger as well. So you can start out nice and slow, and then go up from there. So brand new to me, so I want to give it a shot, try it out, see how well this thing works. So I'm going to start this process by pouring in roughly half of this bottle of water first, getting it mixed up, and I'll just slowly add more water as needed. Another reason why I want to start out by using this drill is I much prefer this style chuck, attachment chuck, to this style chuck. These are just an absolute handful to use. The tools that come with it are cheap and cheesy, and they always seem to get rounded off, and they just don't fit the chuck very well. So I'm going to start with this guy and see what sort of luck I have with it. So this drill's working really well. One of the things that I wish I had was a handle. Now, this drill came with a handle, and it looks like in transport it has fallen out of the bag. So I'm going to look in my pickup for it. If it's not there, then it must have fallen out at work. So it must have fallen out at work. So I'm just going to continue mixing this the way I was. So I would never recommend using a cordless drill, a handheld drill like this, even though it's a hammer drill, even though it's a brushless motor, even though I know DeWalt makes phenomenal tools. They're very well built. This line, this particular line, is actually their commercial line, so it's built to withstand a lot more abuse than just your homeowner grade stuff. But I would never recommend using a cordless battery-powered drill, just a common drill, to mix any of the cementitious products, mortar, grout, thin set, any of that. These just have a much heavier duty built gearbox, and the electrical motors in these are designed for that, whereas something like this simply isn't. But this is doing a phenomenal job. So I'm going to add my last little bit of water and continue mixing for another couple of minutes before I let this set up. So the trick with the grout is going to be just the opposite of doing the thin set. With the thin set, we started at one side and worked our way to the end. With the grout, we're going to start in the middle and spread our grout to the outsides. Take a damp cloth or a damp sponge, not wet, but a damp sponge, and wipe this grout off. With the glass tile, it's probably not going to haze too badly, but you do want to get it off there before it starts drying. So once you get done grouting, you're going to want to let the grout cure for 24 hours before you do any significant scrubbing on that, using a haze remover or anything like that. With the glass tile, the haze probably isn't going to build up as badly as it does on some of the ceramics or porcelains. So tomorrow, whenever I get home from work, I'm going to just wipe it down with a wet sponge. If that doesn't take it off, then we can use the haze remover after that. After about an hour, you're going to start seeing this really bad white hazy buildup. It may not even take an hour depending on humidity and other environmental factors, but Right now the humidity is really high, so it's probably going to take an hour for that white haze to build up, and then you can just go over it one more time with a wet sponge. I'm going to get behind the stove really well because we probably won't spend a whole lot of attention back there tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything wiped down one last time with the driest damp sponge I can possibly use. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it wet, obviously, but I'm gonna wring it out as best I possibly can, get rid of that haze, and then we're just gonna let it sit for 24 hours. So I think Miyagi probably should have taught Daniel-san, sponge the grout.